to create the content, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We then take the chefs. The chefs are not part of the staff as well. So I've contracted other catering companies, and they're now competing for the business because they equally want to be in that space where they are able to showcase their cuisine. So now it's not only about us showcasing Lieto as a product, but it's about the chef who's cooking the food. It's about the tour guide that I'm also going to, employ or rather contract to come and actually tell us a story about their own region. So when we go to different locations, we then try and get the locals, and we tell them, this is what we're looking for. Get us the story, empower yourself with the knowledge, so that when we bring our guests to you, they can now actually listen to you. That's also going to put you out there, so that for the next tour operator who's going to come in your region. So it's all about realizing how currency, how partnerships and collaboration can become your new currency.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Catherine, I'm going to move it to you. I think one thing Tumelo brought up was the idea. I mean, I got to Bloem, by the way, and the first thing I asked was, can I buy my food from Uber Eats? And somebody was like, no, but there's no Uber here. I was like, okay, so what's the alternative, right? And I don't think as Bloem we need to wait for Uber. The model is there. The market has been tested. So if we were to bring a young entrepreneur in this room right now who says, Standard Bank, give me 10 cars. I have an idea. It's already tested. I don't need to test it. Uber's already tested it. What is Standard Bank looking for?
Good question. Very good question. So, firstly, we ain't going to give them the 10 cars.
Oh, no.
No. No. Let me finish.
Yes.
We are going to make sure we can supply funding. And
Okay.
then they go choose the cars they want.
Okay.
Because we ain't an OEM. But
Okay.
we have relationships. And we've got Ray, who's our regional head in the room, and she has a team. We have relationships with suppliers, with dealer networks. So in other words, they will then say to them, well, let's look for a car that best suits your needs, that's got a TCO, total cost of ownership, which is the least cost,
Okay.
which is the most reliable, the most safe. Because it's not about just the delivery, it's also about the experience. So do you need funding? Of course, yes, funding, that's what we do. But you also want to make sure that you can have access to a network of vehicles that can be supplied. So what kind of a vehicle do you want? Do you want a budget vehicle that's going to do the needs at a low cost? But obviously funding is relative to the model. So we would expect that there's a little bit of a marketing plan put together, because although you say it's tested, there's obviously not just Uber Eats, there's Mr. Delivery,
Yes.
there's also Bolt, and
Yes.
there is a whole host of others. And then many of the eateries have their own delivery. So I think the access to market and the ability to actually exploit the opportunity is directly linked to who your partner can bring. So they can look at financing, obviously you want to do some insurance, and then also that person can't drive all 10 cars. You'd also want to make sure you've got the right drivers, and then we've got access to the to lots of service providers that do driver training. For instance, we've got a lady called Nikki Scott that's part of a driver training initiative where we're funding over 900 entrepreneurs in transport and logistics, and women drivers. Do you know that women drivers, right, when they are driving cars, buses, etc., and trucks, that they're 44% more likely to have lower maintenance costs? Also,
To
your
drive
experience
well.
is, safer, and if there is a crash, it's less in terms of repairs. But anyway, so short version is, yes, of course, yes, we're the partner of choice.
Okay.
We can find cars,
Hold on,
we have
hold
the
on,
funding,
hold on for me,
insurance,
Catherine. Hold on for me,
drivers.
Hold on for me, Catherine. All right. Now, I do financial education, right?
Uh-huh.
So we need to go into the realities of when you say we can fund you, what
Of
that
course.
looks like.
It looks like fixed and variable costs.
Okay,
So in other words, it's a capital input cost.
Hold on, Catherine. Hold on, Catherine. You are pulling the cart ahead of everything. The horse. Okay.
Horse.
So there's the funding side. Then there is, and I'm trying to understand whether you're differentiating funding coming through as a business funding, or you are talking funding the asset itself. Can you differentiate the two for me just quickly?
Yeah, so I think if you think of funding the asset firstly, so there's an asset in the background,
Yes.
which is your source of revenue. So it's going to generate the revenue.
Yes.
You're going to need the asset
Yes.
to be able to collect, deliver,
Yes.
get paid.
Okay.
But then also that's going to require some working capital. So it's a combination of specific product type funding, as well as you'll need some working capital, because whilst you are generating the revenue, you've got to buy fuel. So
Yes.
there's other products that can support you around that. So you have to be able to have a period of time before you.
So you're blending the two.
Well, if you think about,
essentially.
as a partner, we can also help you secure the right vehicles, the right vehicle for the right application. So as I said, we, as a partner, we can help assist the entrepreneur to connect them either with our own network or with our teams in the network, suppliers, vehicles, and driver training.
Okay, I just want,
Driver training is very important. You know, 60-60.
hold on, Catherine, give me a chance, hold on. I want to make sure that if somebody in this room has decided I'm going to take on this big task, us putting together this reality, it needs to be a realistic and an accessible, avenue, right? Credit scoring, will that need to be there? I just want to understand
Yeah, of
at
course.
what, the thing is sometimes we speak about things in a very,
Okay.
airy-fairy, but when a person does now sit across your consultant, all of those things now come up and I have
Yeah.
not prepared for them.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're being quite specific.
Yes, I want to know, the SMME that's sitting in this room today, when they step Monday into your office, how do they position themselves?
Okay. So obviously, funding is linked to your ability to provide a business plan and all those other things to support that. As you've indicated at the beginning of your conversation around it's being tested.
Yes.
But clearly, the individual needs to be in a position where they can demonstrate repayment ability.
Huh.
And of course, a credit score, you speak of credit score, I don't think it's a secret in the room, that also goes hand in glove with behavior.
Yes.
Right. So let's assume it is an entrepreneur that has a credit score that is not impacted by judgments, et cetera, but there is a way to rehabilitate and those kind of things. But we don't want to go have that kind of a conversation. I think we want to say, as entrepreneurs in the room, we have an idea, how can we make anything to do with delivery? You're dealing with externalities, including having a team that can actually operate your vehicles, or in fact, it could be electric motorbikes, EVs. Do you have a charging station, et cetera? But I think the concept is we have an opportunity where we are linking to various networks and partners. I've just spoken about driver training. Do you know that we're involved with the Commercial Transport Academy for women driver, women that for drive, and not just that, also to understand, to be an entrepreneur in logistics.
And I'll tell you why, Captain. I'm going to move to Mbali just quickly, but I'll give you the context of why we bring this up. There are many instances where we find out about companies doing incubations, adding people to supplier lists, but it never really turns out into an actual business opportunity. So that's why I think it's very important for this room, for us, to ensure that the entrepreneur in here today, the idea, the opportunity may sound viable, but we need to make sure that we are also preparing them, so by the time they sit with you guys and say, I want Standard Bank as my partner, all of the things that you guys require are all in place. But I'll circle back. You positioned amazing opportunity within the tourism space. I don't think we can even begin to, I sat there and I was even telling, as I was sitting, so I'm like, I'm going to go do this, right? What are some of the barriers to entry that you have experienced? And how does one, and maybe let me not say too many, give me 2 barriers of entry and how they can be overcome.
Okay, I think at times, and Hloni and I have known each other for many years, so I'm also going to pivot back to him.
Perfect.
The key thing is to be able to understand, number one, what are you selling?
What are you selling?
And there is definitely a bit of that. I remember once going in to do a pitch, and I was like, I've got this fantastic product for an institution that needs a product like this, to have our travelers have this experience. And in the room, someone said, oh, but what about the Kokos? And then the other one was like, oh, but what about the stock fares? And the other one, by the time I left, what I came in to sell was now starting to look like a different animal. Right? So what is it that you are actually going for? I'm happy to collaborate and be agile, but there's a vision. So what's that vision and how do we get there? The next is if you are looking to engage with international inbound, and Hloni will talk about channels later, you need to understand that these are businesses that have been running for maybe 10, 20 years, who have got built relationships. So it's almost like wanting to come in and compete with a massive brand like the Golden Arches, like a McDonald's, and say, listen, I'm bringing out this new burger, but that's where I want to compete. So if you want to go into that space, there's an opportunity to start slowly, gradually, and grow yourself up. or to just differentiate and create something that's unique. If it's about going through a distribution channel, your tour operators, your larger destination management companies that are selling into European markets, you need to build those relationships or you will not move the needle.
Like that.
If they don't know who you are and you don't get in front of their faces, they can't promote and sell you.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to understand how to do that. Or, like Ronnie did, you need to create your own chain.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to start to create a new channel. And there you'll be able to drive it. So that's one. And I think, oh geez, 3 there. You asked me for one. But I think also just try to keep it simple. Remember, keep it simple, stupid.
Yes.
You know, try to keep some of the things simple. Sometimes you do. I walked into an establishment that is a 3-star, that is beautifully appointed because it's simple and it's clean and all the things I need are practical and they're there. And I walked into a place that's supposedly a 5-star, but I don't understand why all this other stuff was there. It's there because it's filling up the space, but it doesn't actually give me anything back. You know, so if you are also going to look at it, what are some of the ways that you can keep it simple? You don't have to be a 5-star with robes and this and this. What are the ways that you can give a good service? And I think the Capital Hotel Group in Johannesburg, and they've spread a lot, they got that. They found a market, they understand its business travelers, who might want an apartment-like stay, and you'll see the apartment hotel trend is glowing globally, right? People want to be able to cook for themselves, but not all business travelers want slippers and gowns and this and that. We want good Wi-Fi, we want a good working station, we want to be able to actually just breathe after a
an
day
iron.
of working. We need an iron,
iron.
right?
Come on.
We need an iron, we need a working safe, you know, we need a good cup of coffee. So if you are now putting in your clap and then the curtains open, I don't care. Right? So when you understand your market, keep it simple, talk to them, give them the things that they want, because sometimes we actually take ourselves out of business by adding and putting and plying things that eventually, like, this is not a sustainable business. I mean, how can anybody keep this up? Because you've built up these massive expenses to run this business.
Yeah. And we've seen that quite a lot happen with small businesses where people overextend themselves in terms of what they are offering. But as the years go by, you know, now, and I'm talking about, for instance, hair, wigs, you know, all of a sudden now the glue doesn't stick. But when you started, the glue used to stick for 2 weeks because now you're cutting costs on the glue. You know, it gets really frustrating. Mejoy, I went to Ghana a couple of months ago. I went to Aburi Gardens. And when I arrived there was a young man who was doing archery. They were doing sip and painting. They were doing all sorts of games, you know. And we asked him, so this is it's a government-owned park. How are you getting it right to be able to do this? Now, these are innovative ideas that young people are coming up with. And I'm going to put you on the spot a little. I know it's not your department. But how would a young person who is an SMME, is very interested in some of the ideas that Mbali shared, but they do involve government assets. What conversation are they having?
Government asset management is a very tricky ground. However,
Just give me 2 seconds, Mejoy. Can we please lift up her volume?
this is how I end up
Yes.
losing speaking engagements because I don't have a volume.
Which you're very audible, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Government asset management is very tricky ground due to the fact that generally I used to be an asset manager in government. People that are given the responsibility of managing assets in government, one, we have a history of having had to merge the asset register of government from your old TBVC states as well as the old tricameral parliament, which was the colored Indian and black, as well as the white government.
Okay.
So the asset register in government is not kosher. We're still trying to get it in line. You find that once that is sorted out, we have an issue of maintenance, whereby government assets are not always maintained because we don't have the budget. 3, we have a problem of certain assets that are coming from the old regime don't necessarily make sense for us now. I'm going to give you an example. We've got Tabanchu Airport. In the old regime, it used to be the landing pad for Dr. Lucas Mangope.
Yes.
When he flew from Mabatu to Tabanchu, because that's how the old Puputatswana was configured. Right now, we have a problem with what do we do with Tabanchu Airport. We've had to look at who owns the asset. We were struggling between Mangaung, was it Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality, was it the Department of Public Works nationally, was it the Department of Public Works provincially, simply because some of the assets fell through the cracks. And what young people did is that they came and they used it as they used the track as a drag racing venue. Now, for us, that helped because at that point, the aviation sector was not so developed that we knew what we could do with that. And two, it could not be maintained due to the fact that we still had to decide who owned it. And even if we found out who owned it, where would the budget come from to do what we felt we had to do? So with an asset that you may identify, find out who owns it. If you find somebody in government that's not interested in your proposal, run around, get the information for them. And make sure that you call, right? And these days we've got WhatsApp call. WhatsApp call is next to free if you've got Wi-Fi. Make sure that you get hold of the person that has got the decision-making power with that asset. Once you get the person that's got the decision-making power, give them the information. I went to this asset, this is who owns it, this is what it looks like, this is the innovation that I have with the asset. But most importantly, government never wants to spend money.
Okay.
Because we don't have money to spend.
Okay.
And because people do not understand the fiscus, they tend to think that government is a bottomless pit of money. It's not. So if you come to us with an asset, come with a very innovative idea, but make sure that you are able to fund yourself. If you come to us and say, give me money for me to make this asset, then I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But if you come with a complete idea, basically a closed supply chain, whereby you are able to find partners like Standard Bank who are able to come on board with you, I, as an asset manager in government, even if I might not be the final decision maker, if I'm taken by your proposal, I'm able to sell it on the higher up. To say, if we don't partner with this person, the next thing that's going to happen with this asset is that it's going to be vandalized.
I absolutely love that. I love that, and I'll tell you why, because you've just created the synergy for us, right? Are there any photographers in the room? Any photographers?
Yeah.
All right.
And there's another one.
So, Instagrammable moments. There's a guy in Asia who put up carpets. He put them in a little box, and people travel from far to go and take pictures in those carpets, right? So you're going to find out who owns the asset, which government department, right? You're going to identify it. Then you're going to go to Standard Bank and say, I need cameras. Standard Bank is going to fund you through their blended funding model. Right, Catherine?
Yeah.
Straight up. It's not a card, this one. This one doesn't even need credit scoring. You buy your cameras. You don't need money from government. You need their assets. You need their parks, right? That's what you need. And you've got a business.
If I may just touch on that, I think I'm one of the SMMEs that have actually been trying that exercise.
Okay.
I mean, with the product that we have, one of the things that have made our camping popular, especially for the domestic market, is having boat cruises. Now, we've identified dams that are beautifully built, like the Bloemfontein Dam in the Free State. In Pretoria, there is Brongo Spray Dam, and they have the nature reserve that are either run by the municipality, and you approach them, and they will ask you to send a proposal. You do the proposals. You have various meetings, and then eventually you're told, no, this has to actually go for public tender. Now, as you say, one has to be innovative. If I come up with an innovative idea like we had with the sky camping and boating, how do I then move beyond that so that it does not have to go out to public tender? Because then if it does that, it gives somebody else my idea. So it's one of the things, challenges that I'm having as an SME. That
Can I come in there?
Of course.
I think entrepreneurs are better experts at supply chain than we are as government. In supply chain, we've got a term called a sole supplier. This is where you come in and you supply a product that nobody else can compete on.
Yeah.
And the more innovative, the more unique the product, the more, because remember I said the key thing is helping me as government to make it easy for you to deliver what you need to deliver. So if you, that's why I mentioned the closed supply chain. You must make sure that you close your supply chain to ensure that you assist government to be able to deliver what you have, what you're able to deliver. And if you are able to fund yourself, remember, if I take the thing out on tender and I say that I need a service provider that is going to give me boating, cruises, unique chef experiences, astronomy and stargazing, and they're able to fund, self-fund the project, how many people are going to respond to that tender? Because 90% of the people that go and look at the government tender bulletin are people that want to make money from government. Take the chance.
Take the chance, Hloni. And while you're thinking of how you're going to make sure you're taking that chance, talk to us a little bit about value proposition. How important is it for SMMEs to have that value proposition that is their own and it's unique to them?
Yeah. I think I'll touch on two things. One is basically the consumer.
Okay?
When you're at your ideation phase, who are you going after and what are you offering for them? You know, and from a tourism perspective, and I think Kathy joked about it this morning to say, right, tell me about destination marketing, and she said, what, Kruger National Park in Cape Town, you know. And if you look at the new consumer, and I think this is also coming out of COVID as well, they are global citizens, so really they want to travel the world. They are, you know, they want experiences, unique experiences. So what is it that you have to offer when you're putting together your package? People are saying they want to come to South Africa to have authentic experiences. Mbali touched on that earlier on. So how do you have those, how do you incorporate that without necessarily losing Cape Town and Kruger National Park? Those are beautiful assets, by the way. So how do you then make sure people that don't only go to Cape Town and as well as the Kruger National Park, but they come to Bloemfontein? What are those experiences that you have to offer them? So then you start building your product around that. And then next is the channel part of it. How are you going to then distribute your services to the end consumer, especially if you're looking at the international market? And by the way, the domestic market right now is one of the biggest attractions that we have, that we've been neglecting from a tourism perspective. But what are those channels that you're going to use? If you don't have a budget to be putting your ads on DSTV, there is social media. Look, you can do social media training, as well as other digital platforms like your Google Analytics. You take short courses there, and they guide you through how to actually place your ads. They have toolkits that you can use. So those are some of the things that you have to look at. But there's also the trade aspect of it. And again, Mbali touched on it. And I know Mbali and I like playing tennis ball. Tony did this, Mbali did this. You know, you have your, and it's a handful of tour operators. However, they are big tour operators. So you can either see them as an enemy or you can try and become an ally with them. Once again, you can partner with them, right? If we use an example of Soweto, Soweto is meant to be a tourism success. But in my opinion, in my view, really, it hasn't really reached its full potential. Because your tourists go there in buses. They kind of shown different attractions in Soweto, but they remain in their buses. They don't get out to actually experience Soweto. And again, it comes from safety and security. However, if you're involving the community and you work together with the community, the guy that's going to help park your car, whom you're going to tip later on, he's now got a reason to look after you. Perhaps maybe you need to take a taxi. Of course, we'll have to talk to our taxi drivers to make sure that their taxis are up to scratch and they're able to carry passengers safely to Soweto. So it's, again, about collaboration. So you then need to take the different aspects, especially if you're going to become a tour operator, pack that together, look at what your consumers are looking for, and give the consumer what they want.
Okay, let me give you a challenge, Hloni, before I come to Catherine. Kayla K. Tibo Mangba and Kayla K. Sichaba, who goes to Sichaba here? If we were to say we want to give Bloemfontein a different experience, and we want to share in the market, ya Kayla K, le Sichaba, what would you offer them? Because sometimes we say, but South Africans are only into this, or they're only into this, but we've never given them a different experience. So I'm giving you the challenge. You are in Bloem, only 6 months. to share with the market that Kayla K gets, Sechaba gets? What are we putting on the table?
Okay. Well, I'd need to firstly understand again Kayla K and
Let's quickly get a mic to this gentleman so he can tell us what type of a consumer he is. He's a Kayla K consumer. Please raise your hand, sir. Yes. So he can tell us what type of a consumer he is. Papa, what type of a consumer are you? What type of experiences do you like? And how much are you willing to pay for an experience?
Well, good day. My name is Bongani Mboleko. There at Sichaba, we go for fun. And there's meat.
yes,
And we like to meet people.
Yes.
Different people.
yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's
So
all about
Monati, good time,
good time.
Nama,
And chillers as well.
and chillers. So you want to be
Yes.
around people.
Yes.
Okay, so let's take, for example, your backpackers market.
Yes.
People that are gonna drive through South Africa on different routes. How do we then put Bloem on that route map? If people are gonna be driving from Johannesburg past Bloemfontein, and like Mbali was indicating, why should they come into Bloemfontein? Now, if Sechaba, that's what they offer, fun and your cuisine, your chisanyama. And I'll tell you, steak is very expensive in Europe, by the way,
Yeah.
and it's not as tasty. So when they are here, they actually love our food. However, fine dining does not offer the same flavor.
Yes.
This is what the experience we have to offer the guy. Bring them into the township, make them feel welcome, and it will make wonders for you. It becomes, again, an Instagrammable moment.
Yes.
Once again, that becomes your channel to take it out there. Before you know it, guys in Johannesburg, when they come to Makufe or any other event like this one, when we are done for the day and we want to have that steak, I will be going to his place because I now know about it.
Okay, all right.
May I come in as well?
Please do.
I don't know, I'm a transportation professional, but I'm now talking about government assets. With regard to government assets and a chiller's experience,
Okay.
we have the Wesleyan Church, where the ANC started. Now, the area around that place is basically degrading because urban Bloem is moving north, west, east, but it's definitely moving away. So when you're talking about this, I'm thinking, why not take one of those buildings and build a Kayla K experience around the Wesleyan Church? And then have the Wesleyan Church and your towers, because just behind the Wesleyan Church, you have the towers that used to be, I don't know whether you know, in Bloem, historically we used to generate our own electricity. And those towers behind used to generate electricity. And if we can build a whole precinct around that area, I should actually be taking that business and not giving it to someone. Yeah, but
And
because I'm not a
majority-
Bonati type person,
Yes.
that would need a social butterfly to actually build an experience around that. And I would stop. I would do a 3-hour stop on my way from Bloem to Cape Town to actually experience that.
There you go. We told you, we bring you the ideas today. It's not about just pressing green and implement, guys. We don't want to come back next year and have the same session here and have the same conversations, guys. Next year, we want entrepreneurs to come on stage and say, what Joy said, I've done it. I mean, Chafozi, they've even put bungee jumping.
I
All
was about
sorts
to
of
say
things.
that,
Yeah.
actually. The
You know?
Soweto Towers, you can bungee there, and there's a chillers and a car wash. And,
Yes.
And now it's a whole tourist experience on its own, and quad biking.
Quad biking, absolutely. Catherine, again, you know, mine and your conversations are those very big ones, right? The last 2 days, one of the biggest things that came out was the ability to de-risk. Because if you're dealing with the bank does not like risk. And, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to come with as little risk as possible, right? Mbali mentioned something quite interesting, the young lady that has back rooms, who is managing these back rooms, getting money from it, but nobody can really trace that money.
I
Right?
want to add on that before Catherine.
Okay.
So when she wanted to extend and
Yes.
she asked for a home loan, she was declined.
Yes.
And then she applied for car finance for 1.2 million, and the car
And it got
finance
a-
was approved. And
That's
she
actually
used
where
that
the
to build.
And interesting enough, that's where the question came from. There was a young man on Wednesday who said, we can't get business funding, but we can get loans for cars. And the issue of de-risking came up. So I want to find out from you, what are the pain points for the bank? Because I think often we have the conversation the other way around. We say we want to vilify the banks, and say banks are not willing. But I mean, we understand banks are profit-making companies. For you guys, what are the pain points that each entrepreneur today can take away and say, if I fix this, I'm at least 80% in?
So you made a few statements
Yes.
about the banks not liking risk. I don't think it's a question of not liking risk. I think it's a question of understanding what is the risk.
Okay.
So I'm going to speak to you about something which is closer to my heart.
Cool.
So Standard Bank, by the way, finances more trucks, trailing equipment, and 70% of all the bus operators in the country. That doesn't sound like a bank that's scared of risk. That sounds like a bank or a funder
That understands.
that understands risk. But more than that, what if that same bank helped develop a standard, a self-regulation standard? What if that bank took a small operator with 6 scorrer trucks to where today he's got 90 trucks and he's running an RCL contract and he's running a Sapaco contract. Africa Link Logistics is one of those customers. So in other words, we understand your business. When it comes to transport, that's my area of specialization. So we embrace it, we understand it, and we find ways to make it operationally more acceptable for the operator to understand how can I make my business more profitable, more efficient, less crash prone. And remember one thing to consider, that if you're running, say, a transport business or a trucking business, how do you grow that business? It's not just about revenue generation. It's about making sure that I've got the right provisions, the right costings, the right fixed costs, the right variable costs. So no, it's not about being afraid. We are not scared. We are prepared.
Okay.
So it means that we understand the business. But look, transport is my thing. You spoke to me about the 60-60
Yes,
and
yes,
ASAP and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's all great, but you know
Yes.
it works, by the way.
Yes.
It does work.
Yes.
60-60 comes to my house sometimes 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Within 20 minutes.
But you see, and this is probably, and it may be, and I do apologize because you, as you say, your expertise is greatly sitting in the
Yes,
transport
yes.
space, right? But I think for the value of the room,
Entrepreneurs, yes.
entrepreneurs is
100%.
at the heart of everything.
And it's about the opportunity.
Yeah, and what I want to ask is, often it's easier to get funding for a product than a service. Now, when you look at tourism, for instance, and even the ancillary support businesses for transport, a lot of them are moving into the service space. How do I prove my case at a
Okay.
service space?
I'm gonna answer it by proposing the following. Do you know that there's a place that is less than an hour's drive from Johannesburg, and you get the Big 5 experience and the Baby 5? Do you know what the Baby 5 is? The rhinoceros beetle,
Yes.
Yes.
right? And the
We don't know the
leopard
rest, though.
tortoise,
don't
and
know
the
the rest, though.
buffalo weaver. Okay, so anyway, so I can carry on. But I want to position it so that it's the experience, and I loved what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the young man over there, Thorny spoke about, he wants to look at maybe putting boats on a dam. So by the way, you can go within an hour's drive from Johannesburg, and you can ride on a cableway. You can go to a cheese farm. You can do a hike. You can see vultures, the Cape vultures. The African fish eagle, you can hear them, you can see them, you can smell them, you can experience that. You can do kayaking, you can ski, and you can go on a boat cruise. And you can do a white-only boat cruise. There's lots of those in Harties. But as I've indicated, you can hike. You can go to a vulture restaurant. You can go to a strawberry farm. You can go to a pecanut farm. You can go to a mushroom farm. And I said you can do the cheese farm. And you can hike. You will hike yourself. You'll never stop hiking. So I'm simply saying that is what you package. It's the experience. And funding is easy. And remember, funding is easy. If you can secure it by being able to put yourself in a position where you've got your idea, you've started it, and there's lots of funding. It's not just bank funding. There's angel funding. There's family funding.
Okay, hold on, Catherine. You made a that's also quite a big statement you've just made. Funding is easy, right? And I can assure you that many entrepreneurs will disagree with you on that one. Perhaps give us the justification of why you say it's easy.
Yeah, so funding is easy when you have the right plan,
There you
when you understand and you can demonstrate and you can position. But more than that, like this customer of mine, Sunshine Bennett, with his 6 old trucks, we've been able to take Sunshine from a business of 6 old scorers to 90 trucks in less than 9 years. But not just that, he's been able to build an entire logistics framework around being profitable, efficient, and offering for his customers an experience where if you're going to load, for instance, SAB is one of his customers. In COVID, he sat with 20 trucks, fully loaded, right, going nowhere. And he could survive because not just that, it was about understanding how is he going to generate revenue to sustain the funding. Because it's all about being able to pay it back. But not just that, by the way, Sunshine finds these trucks over 24 months He pays them off within 18 months. And you know why? Funding is easy for him because he doesn't want the debt, but his trucks, he invests that sale into the next deposit to the point where he actually will not need funding. So I work for an organization that provides funding, but it's not just about that. There's other things you fund. He's growing his business, he's bought farms, he's bought depots, but he invests in driver training, that requires funding. So I think it's just a question of funding is easy. I know it sounds like a generic, just throwaway line, but it is easy if you understand what I'm going to fund, who's going to provide me with funding, and banks are not the only opportunity for funding. We have operators that also source funding from CEDA, and there's obviously from Development Bank, etc. But there's a number of what you're wanting to do. But I think the core character part of funding is what do you want to fund it? How are you going to access it? What's it going to do?
Yeah.
So at the moment, everybody wants to buy a truck to transport coal. That is not easy. Coal logistics is difficult. The funding part is the breezy part. Making sure that your trucks load on time, that they can offload, and that they can actually don't stand for 3 hours in a queue. So I think it's just the understanding of what is the nature of my business, where's the risk that I want to go to. So that's the easy part.
Let's pass the baton on to this, because you also mentioned other funding ways.
No, I'm actually not going to I'm going to ask a very, very pertinent question that a lot of people come to us. You talk chrome logistics and even agricultural goods logistics, because the struggle that we're having, you spoke about Sunshine. Just from the top of my head, I can tell Sunshine is white.
Nope.
He's black.
Oh, absolutely.
That's fine.
And he's white.
Sunshine had 6 trucks, 6 Gorogoro trucks. My client who comes into my office has got nothing.
Doesn't have, yes.
He's a former driver who's got 24 years experience in the logistics industry. And he says to me, Mejoy, I want to own a truck. What do you own? I own a 2-roomed house. And I try and walk around with him to all the financing houses. And they say to me, we want a direct contract. I then go to the mines and I say, listen, my free staters need direct contracts. They say, Mejoy, if you want us to give contracts to your people, they need to be able to give us a capacity of 50 trucks upwards. Now, I must now run around and look for 50 people for one contract. But how come Standard Bank cannot fund a certified subcontract for 5 years? Because Nicolette spoke about de-risking. I think that is the core of the problem that we have within the transport sector and why our PDIs are not growing. Because your funding houses are not taking enough initiative to innovate the financing package. And that is the problem that I'm sitting with as government. Because people come to me, and I'm not saying take a risk on me when I'm irresponsible with my finances. I'm saying take an extra step to innovate, to make provision for me to get into the industry and grow.
So let me respond. So it's not just Sunshine Bennett who is a black PDI. It's not. It's also Anna from Mamoja Trading. So we've got a number of smaller operators. And by the way, Sunshine, right, started as a driver. He's an orphan. He has nothing, owned nothing.
But he's one person out of 50 million South Africans.
Remember generically, so there's an example. And he bought an old truck, he fixed it up, and he started driving, and then he bought another old truck, fixed it up. So there's a lot of operators that start that way. And you said that Standard Bank will not fund subcontractors. So let me put it slightly differently. So do you know doorstop communities? Okay, so doorstop community in a mine is in Steelpoort, Burgersfort, Rustenburg, right? So you would have to look at operators and mines. Mines, by their license requirements, have to have 30% from the local service providers. So there are many of operators that are doorstop communities that subcontract for chrome, etc. But do you know what the failure rate is? More than 80% for startup in transport. It is really, really challenging. So your one challenge that you have is to make sure that you, from a doorstop community. So we find many operators that are based in Steelpoort, that run chrome, they load at line 2, they run through to Maputo, because remember, rail Rail is going to take 8 years to get back to pre-COVID PRASA and TFR in terms of levels. But I think, no, we find, and it's not, there's Siya Kolisa. I can name a whole host of our transporters that started from nothing on the back of, obviously being able to, but you have to have some logistics experience. So for instance, we get operators that come to us and they worked for a big logistics companies. They're more likely to understand it, but it's not just that. Sasol have the Siyaka project, where, and Anglo-American, where they identify doorstop communities that they can actually then ensure that they have supply either coal to Sasol, or it is fuel for Sasol, or it is what. There is that in terms of mining rights, part of a doorstop community. But then you look at what is in the Free State. So in other words, in the Free State, you've got farmers, you've got product, you've got soft commodities. Many farmers buy trucks so they can get the product to market. And in many instances, they then find other work because you've got seasonality around products. But I think that the reality is we do fund, and not any subcontract is a bona fide subcontract. So essentially I'm simply saying that you must look at the community that you're from and the area that you're at. So in other words, are you from a doorstop community? Are you close to Sariti? Are you close to Anglo? Are you close to any one of the mining
We're
communities?
close to Katu.
All right.
Northern
Ladies,
Cape.
hold on. Let me bring this back. Let me bring this panel back. I guess what my Joy is trying to say, and she's obviously working very closely and intimately in this space. I, as an entrepreneur who's not even from the Free State, I can tell you, Catherine, how frustrating it is when you don't have the collateral, you don't have the surety to stand behind you. Often the answer you do get from banks is, go and get the contract first. And when you go to the contract is, but do you have capacity?
Wrong way.
Do you understand? So,
Wrong way.
so there is a bit of a misalignment between yourselves, and I do think Majoy is correct in saying we do need to find financial institutions in being innovative and a little bit more lenient, especially when you are understanding the risk. Because in your own words, you said, we understand the risk. The risk includes the entrepreneur. It cannot just be an industry risk that you guys are looking at. And an entrepreneur who comes from a previously disadvantaged background is ultimately part of the package. But we'll come back to it. I just want to still get, some insights also from the other panelists. Mbali, let's talk a little bit about, you spoke quite extensively about opportunities that are available within the tourism space. But opportunities can be there, great ideas can be there. Access to markets, and sometimes you can really social media your idea out of the water. You can market out of the water. People can talk about you and say, oh, we know Shoni. Hey, and his things look nice. But they never book.
So listen, I think it's really, the conversion is always the question, right?
Yeah.
Having had an opportunity to work with the likes of South African tourism, there's always that question of how do we assist our SMEs gain access to market and convert?
Yes.
So access to market is one. And there's a couple of different ways. The current view is access to market is, I will take your product and I'm going to take you to the Travel Indaba next week.
Okay.
And you get to showcase to all of the travel tour operators and buyers. They see your product, they engage with you, they can buy. Now that I wear a slightly different hat as well, I'm in the payment space.
Yes.
There's also that portion of access to market, right? So now you social media yourself out. I've seen your trip.
Yes.
I can't book and pay online,
Oh, yeah. So tech enablement.
right? So I think we need to look at it as the market can come to you, but how easy do you make it for the market to convert?
Okay.
You can go to all the shows all around the world. I know an operator who's waiting for R500,000 worth of money owned by an international operator because he can't accept a card payment.
Sure.
So I think understanding that opening up, making it easy, digitizing, it helps. And maybe just a little bit of an intercept or segue to what you spoke about earlier, there's also tools. So with MasterCard, there's tools around SME development, some educational tools. We have partners who work on online distribution. So for example, there's an entity called Whoosh. Whoosh can help you to create a payment link. So now you've said, I want to book a spa, the spa is 700 Rand. Wish is charging, well, I think they charge you on a monthly, Peach also charges monthly, and a couple of others. You can generate a payment link. That person can pay with card immediately. That service is secured. You're no longer waiting for them to arrive at your doorstep in order to be able to make that payment. You're not waiting for an EFT that's coming from abroad. So I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we lock ourselves out of market spaces by not giving our consumer the ability to actually purchase.
So what do they say? Opportunity comes when you are on the dance floor. So
Yeah.
dance.
You need to dance.
And
If
a
you're
dance
not
with the right
dancing,
shoes, right outfit, everything.
and as you grow, then you start to build the cases for our financial institutions. So for example, Standard Bank is a bank MasterCard works with.
Yes.
We have an SME tool offering that showcases some free education around payments, acceptance, what you should know as a merchant, how to manage what we call chargebacks in the payment industry. So this is Mbali saying, I don't recognize letter experiences. I didn't make that booking. I want my money back.
Yes.
The banks don't want to deal with that. We don't actually. So we teach merchants how to manage that. Because if you have to call me 3 times for a refund, in that 3 times, how many people have you communicated the bad experience you're having about getting your money back? And what's the likelihood they'll want to come and utilize my product? So we help to say, are you dancing on the dance floor? Let's help you to get the information and build a case around your business so that when you go to our partners, you can say, listen, I am an informal business, right? But I've been doing this and I've learned this, and all of a sudden how you present that argument and some of the content and rationale, now the bank actually has a little case,
Yes,
right?
to help you.
Oh, okay, actually you've been trading. This is the number of transactions. This is the
Yes.
value of the transactions.
Yes.
You understand how to mitigate fraud and risk. Wonderful. Means tick, you're a safe bet.
Yes.
You know how to manage fraudulent cards on your premises. Tick, good, we're happy to work with you.
Yeah.
This is how I do with my revenue. So some of these products then start to help you to scale. Because essentially that's the challenge, right? As an SME, you want to scale. And scalability comes in different ways. And there was something when you talked about funding, one of the guests on the floor mentioned it yesterday. Sometimes you think you need funding,
Yeah,
but that's not what you need.
absolutely.
I walked into a room and I said to someone that I hold in high respect, I'm like, I need a corporate sponsor. I need a person who's going to say my name in the rooms
And
where
back you up.
decisions are made. When you hear people talking about a facilitator for travel and tourism and you are in that room, I want you to mention my name. I don't want your money.
Yeah.
I don't want you to invest in my business. I want you to open the door so I can do the rest. And I think we need to really understand, do you need money? Do you need someone to open doors for you? Or do you need a mentor? Hloni, I'm starting this business. I don't want your money. I just want to hang around with you a little bit to understand, why do you choose to contract instead of employing full-time? Catherine, in the transport sector, is there a place that Standard Bank hosts, has incubation? How do I get incubated? Okay, next time you speak to Catherine in a year, I've done 3 of your incubation sessions. I've
what I've
taken on the free training that I found there. This is my business case. And now you have a compelling argument.
That's actually very true. I think mentioned on Monday also said, you know, one of the best advice my mom always says is, "Raga, raga, wanaka." Prepare yourself so that no one can say no to you. You know, Mejoy, the room again. I'm about to give you guys a gift. Mejoy, October is Transport Month.
It's also my birthday.
It's also a birthday. What opportunities are you looking to get on your desk from entrepreneurs?
As a birthday present.
Unfortunately, like I said last year, government doesn't give breaks. They facilitate opportunities.
That's perfect.
One thing that we're busy with right now is we're amending the National Land Transport Act
Okay.
to incorporate what they call non-motorized transport. And as transport professionals, we've been really, really struggling for a long time to get the issue of non-motorized transport accepted into communities, but mostly into municipalities. And now, non-motorized transport is your bikes. It is your horse-drawn carts. It is these little... Not really scooters, but your small motors that, you know these little thingies that you have in Africa? Do they call them the kikis?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Tuk-tuk.
The tuk-tuks,
Yes,
that's the
yes,
one.
yes.
So I'm already trying to put a proposal together to say, as we are amending the legislation, how can we get our young people to start using? Because we've gone through the phase of your drones. And it doesn't seem as if drones are really, they're not gaining traction within our communities because it's 30,000 rand to train as a drone pilot. To purchase a drone is not exactly small change. So I'm looking at a situation where we can get our young people to see if they can take up this tuk-tuk market, if they can take up the bicycle market. When we talk about the bicycle market, we're talking about last mile logistics. Last mile logistics is, our logistics supply chain is an origin to destination supply chain. But then the last mile logistics would be something like your Checkers 6060. Checkers 6060 is being managed by an outsourced partner who owns the contract and then contracts out to Checkers and then appoints people who've got a motorcycle license, young people, to be able to drive. I don't know, as a drive-by, we only have about 15 to 20% South Africans who have motorcycle licenses. The rest of them are people from outside. Most of our South African young people or people that are doing this last mile logistics on motorbikes are doing it because there's a provision that we have that says if you've got not a driving license, a learner's license. If you've got a motor vehicle learner's license, you can drive a motorbike. So this is how our locals are surviving. But this last mile logistics industry is actually owned by foreigners. Zambians, Zimbabweans, people from outside. Because of the fact that there's this huge tuk-tuk industry where they come from. Now, what I want to say is there's a lot of young people that are innovating around this non-motorized transport, last mile logistics. Delivery of medication of old people, people that cannot get to hospitals. You go around, you take their medical cards. Even if you say, I don't want to drive, go to Catherine, buy 10 bikes, get 10 young people to drive around and collect the medical cards of young people, take them to Pilonomi or wherever, which hospital, get their medication, sign it off, deliver the medication. If you have 1,000 old people getting their medication picked up by your last mile logistics business, you are in business, young person. And it doesn't cost money to buy a bicycle. Let me stop there. I like people clapping hands for me.
Before you stop there, another opportunity within the road safety space?
Within the road safety space, I'm not a fundi on road safety, but what I know is that there are a lot of companies, your CCBSA, Coca-Cola, the beer guys, your SA breweries, they're beginning to focus a lot around investing into road safety awareness. And what I am hoping that you would want to do if you're interested in road safety, I have a guy that came to me and said, Mejoy, I am a graphic designer. Graphic design is now being done by your Canvas and the like. I would like to have a virtual space that I am able to assist school children with in terms of teaching them about road safety, in terms of teaching them about drinking and driving. And he actually designed this entire virtual education platform for road safety. And he said, get somebody to come and fund me. And I then said to him, go to your CCBSA, go to your whoever's, and I'm actually helping him to partner with these guys to fund his road safety initiative. Road safety is a huge emerging market. TITA, the Transport Education and Training Authority, is also funding innovative road safety initiatives. So if you are into road safety, make sure that if it's an innovative initiative that is going to feed into our 10-year goal of wanting to reduce the number of accidents in the country, and get private sector partners to partner you because they get points for partnering with road safety initiatives.
Absolutely, love that. I know you've got a comment to that, Catherine?
Yeah, indeed. So just to demonstrate how we understand the industry, I'm a judge on the PET project, which is a Road Traffic Management Corporation initiative in conjunction with Advocate MCB and his team. Yes. And it's about scholars. So they are grade 10s and 11s that must, in every province, and they must compete for a particular project where they identify a road safety issue in their community, and then they build this size, the block size examples of little dinky cars and a dinky example of the road and the safety issues, and then they build the solution and they put together the whole proposal, and then they actually compete for it, and then the winners out of every province, so it can be any school. There's also, for instance, one at the school in Western Cape, which is for children that can't see, that can't read well, that are challenged when it comes to visuality and ability to hear. And in that particular project, I'm a judge on that. The kids then go, the children, the learners, then actually present that. And the minister actually is part of that program. So we're involved with that. We also have developed a little booklet called Sharing the Roads in Harmony in conjunction with the Road Traffic Management Corporation and Asuzu, in which the booklet is used about road safety, and it's about also understanding what the impact is of alcohol. So if you're coming home for the weekend, stop drinking at 10 o'clock if you weigh 50 kgs, or stop drinking at 12 o'clock if you weigh 100 kgs, because there's a process of how alcohol
Kayla K,
is,
Sitha.
yes, yeah, boy, you must know, you must mamela. Hey, listen. So the reality is we're very involved, and not just that. A little bit later on, I'm going to do a presentation, which is talking about SAB and Coca-Cola and a whole lot of other companies that have invested in a road safety standard developed by South Africans, for South Africans, by South Africans, for South African road conditions. And it's called RTMS, and it's all about road transport management system, and it's going to be awesome. And by the way, Coca-Cola have a truck that comes all the way from Joburg to Bloem. It's 30 meters long. 22.5 meters is the maximum permissible, normal standardized length. They are running PBS trucks. I'm part of that project. So just to show you, we ain't scared, we are prepared. But more than that, so we are, it's part of what we do, and this standard is changing the way we're doing things. That's about efficiency, and it's about taking trucks. If you have too many trucks on the road, the congestion makes it really unsafe. So you must have higher capacity vehicles. There's innovation. Everybody talks about platform business and innovation. What about in transport? Why can we not innovate beyond the standardized 34 tons? What if you run 72 tons on the road? But I think it all boils down to you opened the door, Majoy. You said about road safety. We know it, we embrace it, we understand it, we help develop it. And we're going to show you a presentation where it's properly demonstrated.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Get with Catherine. During the networking session, make sure you get with Catherine to find out if you can print those booklets. Yabana, she spoke about booklets. Or if you can make them e-signs that people can page if you are the. So before I open up to Q&A, just a quick one, Hloni. Some of these new trains that are coming up, Mbali spoke a lot about them. As she was speaking, I was thinking of that religious one. I'm like, hey, let me go to all the churches in Bushbuck Ridge and organize a trip for them, you know? But what are you guys at Lieto very excited about, and what are you going to jump on immediately?
Look, I think what is exciting for us, as I said, partnerships and collaboration for us are the key. And it's about being able to take our visitors to those remote areas, to the villages, to the townships, and do township tours properly and let them actually experience Soweto. So that's what we're working on, as well as obviously our wildlife, which is big. I mean, we just concluded a deal with South African National Parks. They've been pushing more of the lodges and the hotels, but the camping is coming up again. And that's one way of them winning the domestic market, is actually attracting our guys to go and camp at the wildlife resorts. So wildlife, villages, as well as townships, those are the niche market that we find ourselves in. We're trying to partner with the big players. We're still knocking at their doors. But however, we're also trying to demonstrate directly to consumers so that when they go and knock at the travel agent's door in America or wherever, even locally, that they've seen our experience. So they go in there demanding for the experience as opposed to waiting for the person behind the desk to present their products.
I like
So you need to,
Two questions.
No, sorry, Nicolette. We've got time for more questions.
Okay, great.
I just got something
My
hot.
big boss said I got time.
I've got something hot off the press.
Okay,
And I don't want the guys to miss it.
okay.
We've got 2 prizes before she starts asking questions.
Yes.
Land Rover is giving a Lesotho experience.
Hey, hey. Just go.
I said we don't play here. And because I see people came in numbers, Land Rover is giving two stuff. So if you ask questions and you ask sharp questions, Land Rover is giving a Lesotho experience, overlanding in Lesotho, in a Land Rover. There'll be tents and everything. It's camping, top class, with 30,000 rand. That's one. Two, again, they're giving Land Rover in the mud here in Bloemfontein, stuck in the mud. Again, it's a nice off-roading experience with 30,000 as well. You're going to have nice time. So this came hot off the press.
Love it.
So guys, please, yeah,
All right.
ask questions.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we do need to, can I have the room, please? We do need to excuse May Joy. So if anybody, I mean, she's given us so much today. If anyone, I can take one question for if anyone's got a question, but she does need to run. Anybody got a question for May Joy? There, one question. The gentleman with the hats is the one.
Major, what I want to ask is the government is looking to regulate the taxi industry.
Hey.
And I want to know what are you guys looking to achieve with that?
What is your name?
Carabello.
Okay, Carabello. What we are trying to achieve in regulating the taxi industry, one, there's a lot of taxis running around. Some of them we don't know about them as government. So one, we need to regulate the routes. Two, we need to regulate the operators. Three, we need to regulate the vehicles themselves. Four, we had, when the democratic government came in 1994, we had something called taxi recap. Taxi recap was when government was assisting taxi operators to be able to purchase better quality vehicles. But now what is happening is that a lot of those operators cannot keep up with the payments because the industry is not regulated. There's a whole lot of pirates running around. And because of the pirates that are running around that are not paying for subs in the associations and everything else associated with that, the pirates are sharing the cake with your regular taxi drivers. So regulation is key to make sure that those that are going according to the law are able to derive the correct remuneration from this particular industry. Without regulation, the economy doesn't grow, Carabello. So unfortunately, the industry has gone unregulated for so long because our previous government didn't really care what was going on in the township, but it's something that has to happen. Thank you.
Absolutely. Can we please give May Joy a rousing, resounding round of applause? Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. I love that because some of the things that she's mentioned, we can solve very fast. That financial education for taxi drivers, we've got it in lock. You want to add something on? I just want to stand there. So you can add on to what she's just answered. You want to add to that, Catherine?
Yeah, 100%. So I think, Majoy, you're quite right. Around regulation is important because then you know who the operators are and you can also control and regulate the competition, but in a way that it is allowing competition to happen in the market. So I think it's just a short version, and I think that was very well answered. I don't think I want to add anything more other than we obviously promote road safety, but I'm going to give an awesome presentation dealing with that, but I don't talk about taxis so much, but about the big stuff, the trucks. Because remember, without trucks, South Africa stops.
Right. Do we have any questions for our panelists that are remaining on the panel? Any questions? Guys, this is your chance. I recognize you, I recognize you, and I recognize you, and I recognize you. So there's 4 questions. Yes, I did recognize you. 4 questions. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 then. All right. 6. Okay, so who's got a mic? Let's start.
I have a mic. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Shoni, this question is for you.
Okay.
I want to understand, considering that the tourism industry was the one that was mostly hit by the COVID pandemic. So I want to understand, in your business, what opportunities were exposed by being hit by COVID that you're taking advantage now and exploiting to the max?
All right, can I just take another question before you respond, Shani? Who's also got a mic? We had a question.
Yes. Yeah, I actually want to ask Standard Bank, because when we are talking about funding opportunities and all that, and I mean, I'm a person who come from a corporate background before I became an entrepreneur. Obviously, my credit record is quite very bad. So, I mean, coming to the business, the most important thing that they always look for is your credit vet. And we always fail when we get there. Is there any way of, first, that we can find a way to get out of that mess? And secondly, to teach the students that are still at school, that are one day will become entrepreneurs, to learn of the mistakes that we made before we knew about all these things.
Perfect. Can I take a third one? I think we can remember those questions. So let's take the third one. There's a lady next to you who's got the mic already, then I'll take your question, sir. All right. You can go, ma'am.
Hello, I'm TD once more.
Hey, TD.
I think my question goes to Standard Bank.
Okay?
And in Free State, we actually have one tourism sites that are very strong, but they're not being recognized, or maybe it's not being sold. Astro economy, tourism in the Free State is quite big because we have very good sites that are not visited. So what I would like to know is that as Standard Bank, in that side of the tourism, what is it that they're actually doing, and what are opportunities that the people who are interested in astro tourism that they can be helped?
All right, perfect. So let's cap it there for now, just to get those answers out before we forget the questions, and then we'll circle back. No problem. Shoni, let's start with you.
I think for us at Leto is only 2 years old, by the way. So Leto was born
Post.
just post COVID. And during that COVID time, I did a lot of research, and I was talking with other tourism experts abroad. And the one thing that we knew that was going to spike was people were going to look for the outdoors. Everybody had been cooped up in the apartments. They could not leave because of the restrictions. So travel was going to boom. And from that's where the ideation of Leto came from. But also understanding the consumer, the consumer needs. What are those things that they want to experience when they come here? And then we started packaging that together. I think I've been fortunate because I come from tourism. I've got a 20 years experience of tourism. So that paired with the research that we did and trying to find out what are those things that the consumers are going to want to experience, we then managed to package that together. But that was also not easy because trying to to apply for funding with a new product with unproven track record was not something that the banks were going to look into. So we then started looking, how do we then raise the fund? Who do we partner with? So as an example, the fleet of jeeps that we operate with, we had to approach individuals, especially the social clubs. The jeepers are growing, the bikers are growing, the boaters are growing. So it's not necessarily that it's assets that are owned by Leto, but it's through partnerships, through agreements. People wanted additional income revenue, so we had to work a business model that was going to be beneficial for all parties. So it's a partnership more than anything else, but it's also understanding who you're going to sell this to and getting your partners to buy into your idea. Hopefully at a later stage, we will have track record. We can now approach the banks and say, listen, here's a study case. Can we look into something?
I like that. Tap into the BMW Bloemfontein Club and ask them to borrow their cars. Standard Bank, we've got 2 questions. Astro economy tourism and the question of credit scoring and how do we rehabilitate those clients?
So I think let me address that one first. So there are obviously debt professionals that assist you. So obviously typically you would have been in a legal process, so there might be judgment against you. I think that's the kind of a question you are asking. So there's obviously that process which you need to address. One of the opportunities you have is to obviously settle the debt, and then you obviously have your name cleared. So that's part of the process. So I think that's probably the short version. But for something like that, we are not in the business of obviously rehabilitating individuals or companies that have taken the process through that. We have processes to support individuals or companies that are in that process, as we did through COVID. But I think just to answer your question, there are debt professionals that can assist you to rehabilitate your name and then to clear your name and obviously to then obviously clear your credit score, so to speak. So I think that answers your question to some extent.
Sorry, Kathy, let me just, on the funding piece, so remember, Kathy is our transport expert, right? Over the past few days, we've been seeing lots of questions coming through around funding and access to funding and the obstacles faced in terms of funding. I want to encourage you, and especially because you come from a corporate background, and I think there was questions earlier also around the funding piece, right? You need to be resilient. I love one of the speakers yesterday said that she read. She read until she became an expert, or people thought that she was an expert because she kept on telling people about what she was reading. There's so many ways to get access to finance, especially when you're an entrepreneur. You cannot just, remember the bank is I almost want to say, many entrepreneurs come into the bank looking for a type of grant funding, or they get frustrated when the banks don't want to look at funding them. And holistically, when you're coming in, the bank looks at, they call it the 5 C's, right? So it's the credit worthiness. They're going to ask you for your financials, what you were speaking about now, what's your background. They're going to ask you what's the sustainability of your project, all of those types of things. That's from a financing aspect, right? Many times, that as an entrepreneur can break you. It can break your speed because you're like, I'm trying to get access to funding, but you are only looking at one source. So I want to encourage you, I've had this discussion a few times over the past 2 days now. If I can give you an example, in the Northern Cape, and I'm sure that the Free State has it as well. The old economic affairs, what is it now? DTSIA? Is it called DTSIA?
Oh, I wasn't there.
Yes. They have access, especially, so it's especially for women, it's a little bit more, but it's not excluding you, where they will help you up to 50% of your finance in terms of what you need. So not just from a capital perspective, but from a working capital perspective. So not just maybe for your capex, but your day-to-day needs, right? You need to look at a holistic blended option. And if you come and say, listen, so I've already got, I'm making an example now, this agency that will help me with 50%, this is my business plan, these are my documents, this is my sustainability, my cash flow, my financials, all of that pieces, help me with the other 50%. I can almost guarantee you that financial institutions will come to the party. The last piece is, because we interact with entrepreneurs so often, you don't realize how many medium and established business people are looking to buy into your business. You might need, I'm sorry, I'm going to use you as an example. I'm going to highlight your business because I'm coming back to you with the drones. But this gentleman over here has an amazing idea around drones and his makeup and event industry, right? And he was busy telling people yesterday that entrepreneurs so often go and then the various government grants that are available, they lose steam with SIDA and with SIFA, right? Because there's so much work that you have to put into it and then you just give up midway, right? But in his specific example, he needs a drone. The top of the range drone, potentially that he's looking at, is 25,000. Established entrepreneurs, medium to large corps, to buy a share into your business will easily give you that 25,000. You need to go in and be prepared. So you need to hit the ground running. So don't let access to finance or one route that you're thinking in terms of access to finance limit you. You need to be holistic. You must look at everything. I'm sorry, just
Right.
because I saw that.
No problem at all.
Love it.
And on the issue of credit scores, don't worry. We've got the financial bunny, will sort you out. We'll help you.
Credit scores.
Education.
If you have paid off, to what Kathy was saying, if you have paid off that thing, so there's legislation in terms of what, you can't be put on credit union anymore, right? But if you've got proof of payment and you take it with you, they can go on with your application. So you have to pay that thing off, but bring the proof of payment with you.
All right. I'm going to try and move this quickly just because of time. Kathy, Catherine, if you can just answer that last part about Astro. Just say the name again, Astro?
Astro Tourism. Maybe can I jump in there
Yeah,
for you?
please,
Can I jump in
please
for
respond to
Kathy?
that.
Because I think with Kathy being more on the transport side. So just for Astro Tourism, I've seen recently that the Department of Tourism has got a funding project right now for green and sustainable tourism. So talking about astrotourism, you have very little impact on the environment, you leave a very little footprint. I think your experience entities. So this question I got last year, where do we find it? There's international entities as well that are out there looking for opportunities to fund, specifically African projects that look at travel and tourism. So, as the lady from Standard Bank just said, please read, go out there and research. If you remember from my talk, don't be stuck on the single view. You hear everyone say, banks suck, we can't get it right. but there are other funding opportunities. There's also other opportunities out of government. I just know that Department of Tourism has one running now that's closing on the 31st of May, specifically for you and AstroTourism. I would say suggest have a look at that. And there's about 3 international entities that are looking at funding projects specifically in Africa, specifically in tourism, whether it's small amounts or slightly larger amounts. Please have a look at those as well. And then the next part is, what is it that you need to get this business going? What is it that you're looking to fund exactly? Because there might be an opportunity there for a partnership that doesn't necessarily require funding. So if you want stargazing, do you need to bring someone in with a telescope who understands that? How do you partner? How do you package so you guys can work together and create something new? It's not always about, just getting the money.
Thank you so much, Mbali. I'm going to take that last round of questions. I have got limited time. My boss is looking me inside my soul right now. So please. So I'll take the gentleman with the glitter. I'll take you, the back, and here. Then you can find everybody else, guys, during the networking session. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, everyone. My
Morning.
name is Theo King, and I'm in the events and lifestyle industry. And my question is actually, I think Joy maybe would have been the perfect person to answer it, but I don't know, maybe someone can answer on stage. I'm from Bloemfontein. I'm a local guy from Bloemfontein. And because of my work later on, I started traveling and I started seeing places that I've never seen before, because as a child, we didn't travel much or so, because I'm just from a disadvantaged community here in Bloemfontein. I had the privilege of going to Garib Dam, I think many, many years ago. But I was already old, I was already working. And I was so, as much as I was amazed by the beauty of the place that I saw, but I was so frustrated and angry at the same time, because I felt such beauty was kept away from me. It's just down the road, it's just here. But I've never seen, I've never been exposed, I never had the privilege to travel there. And I still know of people who have never traveled there. My question is, as a black South African coming from a rural area, whose responsibility is it to expose us as young black people to such beauty and such culture that we have? Do I blame my parents? Do I blame the school? Do I blame government? Who do I blame?
Mbali will tell you exactly who you need to blame. Mbali used to work for Sand Park, so we'll be able to give you that. Please, your question, sir. I just want to get all the questions so that we're done with the questions.
Okay.
Please get to your question faster, ne?
It's not a question, but it's just a short comment.
Unale comment.
Yes. It's
Comment
short.
fast.
Okay. My problem that I've noticed that I tend to limit myself by doubting what I have. I'll make a typical example. If you go to Northridge there, I met with the management. There's Virgin Active, there's the mall, but you do not have a car wash. So I went to the management, and they said, okay, we've had proposal, but can you bring your proposal? And I went home, and I started sitting down, and I started doubting what I was writing. Eventually, I didn't submit. So sometimes I tend to procrastinate, I tend to doubt myself a little bit. You said something about believing in yourself. So out of this conference, can I get you maybe as my mentor to say, hey buddy, this is 1, 2, 3. I don't want you to spoon feed me, but to push me behind.
With all due respect, I'm not trying to, right? There's a lady by the name of Minky who's going to come in with business coaching, right? So I'm going to tag team her and Lieto for you. Sony, but tag team, and I'm going to make sure they do it. Ne, to help you, ne? Perfect. Can we get your question?
Dumelang gape. This one goes to Mbali. Mbali, with regards to becoming a facilitator of traveling and tourism, here I am. I read a lot, I research, but I don't have experience in traveling. I've never been to places, and I want to start being a facilitator. Do I need just knowledge or experience as well? And we're going to Catherine. Catherine, you've mentioned a lot of opportunities that you have with funding. Do you perhaps have platforms like this where you meet up with entrepreneurs to reach out and give them more information about what you have?
Perfect. We've got you. That last question there.
Good morning. My name is Tobile Mushwana. I run a company called Uncommon Logistic. We own 3 1.3 ton bakkies that does deliveries throughout the country. I want to, this is for Catherine. Do I have any other funders besides Standard Bank? No. Catherine, I want us to do something that we have never done at the IEW. I want us to build a case study for next year for the IEW 2024. I don't want us to come back next year and say the dog ate my homework. We have a subcontract to supply 7 trucks, 34-ton trucks, that I want us to fund this startup so that we can give them feedback next year, this time, to say Standard Bank assisted this startup on the contract that they had. I had you mention that funding is easy, and you said funding is accessible. So we've built traction. So it's a viable business that is operational, that has 4 employees, that is actually working well. If I just want us to be a bit much more practical with Standard Bank. Can we fund this just to build a case study for next year? Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Catherine, I'm just going to do a quick exercise. I'm standing between people and their lunch. You're still going to come back to do road safety, right? So can you respond to that at that moment, please? So I'm allowing to also have an opportunity to think about it, because I know funding applications on a case-to-case basis. So let's get Mbali to quickly answer those questions, and then people can go to lunch, and then when you come back, that's the first thing you tackle for us.
Right, so to the gentleman on the far left, I like to say sometimes we leave things to other people that we can take into our own hands. Maybe if we take a back step, some of these entities that we have historically were not for us. We were excluded on purpose. But I think as the years have gone by, sometimes we've also continued to exclude ourselves. In my history and my wonderful journey, I've worked for South African tourism, I've looked at the domestic market, and I'll tell you, we tried to drive a campaign to give free trips away and get domestic travelers to travel by taking selfies and getting involved. We couldn't get it right. So whether it's, did we miss the message, or is the platform not the right platform, I'm not sure. As a parent and just a South African citizen, an active citizen, I would like to challenge you to take it upon yourself. To challenge yourself, and I in fact want to challenge everybody in the room to make it your responsibility to see our country. I truly believe that we are the Garden of Eden as described in the holy books. If you look at South Africa and what we have to offer, mountains, bush, beach, you name it. We have found the remnants and proof to showcase that life started here. So we have so much to explore. I would say challenge yourself, challenge everybody in this room to take it upon yourself to educate not just you, but your friends and your community. Because if we all do it together, there'll be no one to blame. We all can take an active part in making it happen.
And
so
facilitation?
moving to this side, facilitation, I think any facilitation, not just about a specific subject matter. So yes, for example, I talk on tourism. One of my other favorites is to talk about just relationship health and general women well-being. Experience adds relevance because then you are able to speak from a place and share stories that help people to relate to you. You become warmer versus just sharing and spitting out facts and content and data. So I would say where you want to be, what you want to facilitate, the things you want to facilitate, you're going to have to put yourself out there to experience some of this in order to be able to bring in. So when you're telling a factual, when you're sharing a piece of factual content or information, you can lace it up with a little bit of humanity and context and a bit of story to really deliver. Because data can tell a story, but it's about delving in for that insight, and I think experience helps with that.
Catherine, quickly, information sessions to find out funding information.
100%. So it's not just about funding, it's about the bigger ecosystem for transport. So you can join the Transport Forum, it's for free. We have many, many workshops, and We do, and it's all for free. So we advertise and we do our processes, and they are hybrid. So in other words, you don't have to physically attend them, and it's done in conjunction with academia, with industry. So for the young lady, go on the Transport Forum. We host many, many workshops. We do many workshops for free. It speaks to sustainability, it speaks to RTMS, it speaks to opportunities, and it covers everything from aviation to the NLTA to road transport taxis, etc. So those are a couple of the forums. But go on the Transport Forum, and it's not just Standard Bank, but there are other bigger players as well, the Transport Forum, free.
Ladies and gentlemen, an absolutely fantastic panel that we've had today. Can you please give them a round of applause?
Oh, one more.
We've answered Tobile. We said Tobile is going to be answered when Catherine comes back. Yes,
To
please,
give you enough
please,
time
please,
to
please. I do
marinate.
need to let go of the panelists right now. They need to also just koka umoya, you know. But thank you very much to our panelists.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Picture, 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 picture.